officially in session in this week's action-packed episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations. This week's episode of Boruto takes us back to the site of the original Chunin exams, where Boruto has an epic sparring match with Iwabe Yuino. At least I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but this is YouTube, so you guys are totally going to blow me up about how to pronounce his name. What I will say is that Iwabe is not exactly the most interesting of characters, and really, I can kind of say that for a lot of these brand new side characters in Boruto who, unless they have a distinctive character design, they're probably not going to be all that important. With that in mind, it is great to finally learn a little bit more about this mysterious new character who hasn't even appeared in the manga version of Boruto. Iwabe is considered the physically strongest student in class, and that's because he's been held back a couple of times. He's incredibly powerful, but he's also kind of dense. Not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. His overall design is very simple with his long coat and his weird hat, but he does have this cool weapon, which is this long metal rod, which you can actually combine with rock-style jutsus to basically turn it into a giant rock hammer. Unfortunately, before we can see that in action this week, it does get taken away from him by Inojin, another character who makes a pretty big splash in this episode. Big fans of the series will probably know that Inojin is actually the son of Ino and Sai, and he takes a lot of his character design from them, although, again, his character design just looks plain goofy to me. Purple hoodie with white overalls. It's not very ninja-esque at all. But then again, we have to remember that the main character of the series, Naruto, is a ninja who wears orange. But enough nitpicky bullshit. What is going on in this week's episode? Well, it immediately picks up with Boruto finally getting ready to go to class after being on suspension for 2 weeks for ramming a friggin' train right into the Mount Hokage. This is a really important scene, as at first, everybody hates Boruto. The fact that he was able to get away with something that was considered basically a massive crime by everyone else, the fact that everybody believes that he's basically just riding the coattails of his father. Prepare to hear riding your coattails a lot in this episode. And no one really likes him aside from Denki and Shikadai. Everybody just sort of puts up with him, and he gets to prove himself a little bit in this episode by going through an obstacle course, which is run by Shino, by the way, whose brand new design is borderline Star Trek-ish, if you know what I mean by that. It has something to do with the visor, but I also do like the fact that the pins on his jacket are actually these two little beetles, just making sure to keeping that bug theme going. And did anybody else notice Anko in this episode? She's kind of hard to miss. She's gotten kind of corpulent, which is to say she's gotten very round. I guess she's really been enjoying her dongo. While Boruto performs really well, he's actually only number 2 in class, with Iwabe being at the very top. And Iwabe's so cool that he doesn't even need to go to school. He skips class all the time, and mostly this is just because he's not very bright. He's very powerful, but when it comes to all of the stuff involving anything with a book, he's just really not that bright at all. And it's because of this that Iwabe decides to be something of a rebel, hoping that one day he will reluctantly be able to graduate from the Ninja Academy. But he does not see eye to eye with Boruto whatsoever. He immediately gets up in his face, starts pushing him and Denki around, and even challenges him to a fight. And despite the fact that Boruto said he wasn't going to do anything like this, they decide to say, fuck it, let's go ahead and go have a cool battle in the Chunin exam arena, which is now surrounded by a bunch of big stone pillars, which makes for a more interesting battleground. And the rest of the episode, of course, is devoted to this ninja battle, which is okay at best. I mean, it's really nothing new that you haven't seen from the series before, aside from the fact that you have Iwabe creating a giant, rock hammer that unfortunately he never gets to use, but it is really cool just getting to see more of Boruto's fighting style, which again is very similar to his father's, but his personality still continues to be a little bit different than his devil-may-care attitude, the fact that he never decides to give up, and that sort of influences Iwabe by the end of the fight, and by the end of the episode, where reluctantly he ends up coming to class again, realizing that maybe if he works a little harder, he might actually be able to get out of this before he enters his 20s. As I said, the actual action scene between these two characters is pretty standard, just a lot of shuriken, running on walls, shadow clone abilities, tricking people into running into other shadow clones, some decent taijutsu moments, but when compared to the first episode of the series, you can definitely see a downgrade in quality in terms of the animation, and especially even in the artwork department. It doesn't necessarily make it a bad episode, it's just kind of disappointing when compared to the first one, which frankly just looked so damned beautiful. But still, the series still manages to look really eye-catching, and especially very colorful, even when compared to the super colorful first seasons of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Not only that, but we still get to spend some time with some other characters that we haven't seen before. Like I said, Inojin, who makes it very clear that he does not like Boruto, and he sort of, just carries his own swagger in his sleeves. And then, of course, we have characters like Sarada and Chocho, the brand new unnamed class rep who basically seems like a next-generation Hinata, and even some of the characters who appear in the background seem like they're going to be slightly important. Is anybody else noticing the gothic Lolita ninja girl with a creepy doll? There's no way that they created a character with a design that unique and they're not going to use it. I can't wait to see what she's going to be all about. That being said, the rest of the students in the class, unless they're actually like the sons and daughters of some of the classic characters from the series, they probably aren't going to do that much. Still, this was a pleasant episode which did a great job of introducing some brand new characters and allowing Boruto to prove himself to his fellow classmates and show them that despite the fact that he is the son of the Hokage, he is not exactly going to be riding on his success, and he's going to try and make his very own, which is very influential to the rest of the class, as by the end, they all love Boruto to death. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? The battle between Boruto and Iwabe probably won't go down as classic, but I think it'll be a pretty solid introduction to the character. I've heard a lot of people already making theories about the character of Iwabe, that he's actually going to somehow become Kawaki. I can definitely see something of a similarity between these characters, but I just don't see it happening at this point. And aside from some superficial differences in character design, they do have some similarities. Iwabe is not exactly excited with the current state of the ninja world. He feels that the Ninja Academy is way too soft on its students, and they need to go through some sort of weird cataclysmic event like the war, which happened over a decade ago. But, like I said, there is a possibility he could become Kawaki. The fact that he does have a staff-like weapon, I'm just not sure why he's decided to so drastically change his haircut and change his name, and if he does become that character, who knows why that went down. I mean, that's still a long time coming. We have to remember we're still in the Ninja Academy. These characters haven't even frickin' graduated yet. They don't even have their ninja headbands. This is something that's sort of like a standard from the other Boruto series that we've already seen before, like the movie and the manga. So we're still getting a lot of new material here, which I said is really not a bad thing. I really do think we need to be eased into the series like this. I think we need to be introduced to the characters a little bit more. It seems like that's what's going to be going on next week. We have an episode that's going to be focusing on Shikadai. Maybe even Metal Lee is going to be important. Maybe even that class rep. We got to see a lot of them in the brand new preview. So there's lots of room for development here. Not to mention there's still the mystery of what happened last week when Denki was taken over by some sort of weird freaky chakra snake. And also, Denki, you're a moron. You didn't know what chakra is. You didn't know what chakra is in the world of Naruto. This should be like common knowledge. People who don't know anything about ninjas should probably know that ninjas use chakra to fuel their abilities. I would have just thought a character like him who seems really smart would probably know that, but no, basically this is like hitting the reset button and we're getting back to basics here in the Boruto series, and that might turn some people off. They might just want to get right into the new stuff and they're not going to get it immediately. It just doesn't really make it very exciting for people who've been invested in the series for a long time and for hoping for a straight continuation of the storyline. That's not what we're getting. This is not Naruto's story. This is Boruto's story, and we're going to see it from the very beginning. This was an okay episode. It was entertaining though, and I think for people who just are starving for more ninja Naruto action, you're definitely gonna get some great moments from this episode, but really nothing too groundbreaking, and I'm still not even sure how I feel about the character of Iwabe, so we're just gonna have to see how he is going to grow. That being said, I thought this this was a pretty decent episode, although it was hampered by some very bad animation at times. But for the most part, it was a pretty decent looking episode, which is continuing to build on the brand new Boruto story, so I have to recommend it to Naruto fans, especially those who want to see more from the series. So I'm going to drop a 4 out of 5 on this one, but I want to hear from you guys. Make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Boruto in the comments section below, and make sure to tell me what you hope to see from the brand new series. Do you have any other theories about what Iwabe is going to be like in the future? Is he just going to be Kawaki, or is he going to be his very own character? What do you want to see from the rest of the brand new Boruto anime? Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest Boruto and anime reviews. Make sure to leave me a comment or two. I'd love to chat with you guys. And of course, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.